Hi Jody, so I'm going to do a video follow-up for you, hopefully real quick, with actionable things that you can work on until next time. I'm using Pippin. He is a 12-week-old puppy that I'm watching for some friends, and I'm going to do some of the sort of like play-stay exercises that we did before. So, Pippin! I'm using a bed because this floor is a little slippery. Good job! And I'm marking him getting on the bed with a vocal reward. A higher pitched voice just registers as a reward or more of a reward to dogs, and so that's why I'm using this sort of kind of obnoxious voice. So, Pippin! Yep, you're eating a rug. Pippin! Come on, good job! What? Yes, good. So body pressure to get him into a sit. Good job. And then he gets a reward for being in the sit. So I'm using his dry food right now, but you can use treats. And again, it's step back, step forward. Good job. And he's looking at this hand. This is probably something that Jax will do because he's used to the reward coming from one hand instead of the other. So I mentioned Jax here because we talked about him fixating on the treat hand. As we did in the session, we can have a treat in one hand to use as a lure, but have the actual reward come from a different hand. This way, Jax learns that a treat doesn't always have to be present, or may not be coming from where he thinks, as a reward for a behavior. He got up, so I moved back into him. So he doesn't get a reward, he's presenting behavior. He's barking, he's a little annoyed, he wanted food, he didn't get food. Presenting behavior can sometimes come off as being whiny or pushy. In this case, Pippin is barking at me. But this is a good thing. That means that they are engaged in what you're doing and that they are trying to get what they want, in this case, food. If your dogs are presenting a lot of behaviors like barking, whining, sitting, down, running around, then the game may be too hard for them and they don't know what to do. If, however, they are just showing one or two of these, then that's good. That means they're trying. Good job. So I'm increasing the distance here. He gets it. I come back. I give him some food. Good. Go a little bit further. So he gets up, I move back into him. Good. But he doesn't get a reward because he got up. Good. But he stayed there, so he does get a reward. So, nope. So too long of a duration there for him to be staying without a reward. So he's not totally getting the game yet, but that's fine. So, Pippin. Good. So I lure him onto the spot, bringing him kind of closer to me. Good job. I step away, I step back. Good job. And he's kind of looking around because this room is distracting. He hasn't really spent a lot of time in this room, so that's good. There's also not a lot going on in here. So good job. So I'm going to start adding some distractions in. This can be a ball, this can be a toy, this can be another dog in the room. Whatever it is, it has to be something low enough that he can look away from. So even just, we'll take a shoe, and that is enough to get his attention. His attention was drawn onto it, so I'm just going to hold it here. Good. He looked away from it, and so it disappears. I'm going to hold it out again. Good. Looked away. He gets a good, and then he gets a food reward. I'm going to make it on the ground. So too distracting. It's on the ground. It's down at his level. It's too distracting. Pippin! Pippin! He's eating the rug. Little puppy. Come on. Let's go. Over here. Yes. There. And body pressure. Good. Sit down. Back up, come back. Good job. Here we go. Look at this, look away, good. Goes down towards the ground, see how he starts to move forward? It comes back up. If he starts to move forward towards the distraction, or like we did here, forward towards the food, it moves away. I don't want to make it really fast away because then it turns into a game of chase it, but it moves away at the speed that he's moving forward. So, there, that was good. And I can kind of gauge, again, how fast he's going to move forward. Don't fall over. Good job. So here again, look away, look back, good. Brings down, he's staying, good. He looked away, good. Looked away, good job. Make it a little bit more interesting, slides. Nope, so too interesting, so it comes back up. He doesn't get to investigate it, he doesn't get that reward. Good, but then he goes back on his place. Good. You can see here that each distraction can be made more or less interesting. An immobile shoe held by me in the air is not as distracting as a sliding shoe on the ground. The sliding causes Pippin to break his cue, but the lowering an immobile shoe he can stay in his cue. So I find a middle point and reinforce that until he is more confident, and then move forward to the sliding shoe. And they're going to start to seek out the place that they were getting food because that's where they were getting food. So if it's a defined place, it's going to be easier. So this is a cloth bed on a hardwood floor, so it's a little bit more distinct of a surface for him to register. If it's just a spot on the floor, they may just pop back into a sit, which isn't a problem, but if it's in the middle of the kitchen, it's not as convenient as if it is, you know, off to the side or on the couch or on a bed or something like that. So I choose to use a bed just because it's mobile, I can move it around, but if you choose to use the couch or something like that, that's great. Your dogs are probably gonna wanna be in the same room as you because they like you, they're social animals, so they're going to probably seek that out. So if they have a place in the room that you're in, it's easier for them. I know you're not gonna be moving a bed around everywhere, and it is very possible to designate a place that is just, you know, this is where you're supposed to be, you sit, you down, you stay where you are. So if that is something that you want to do there, you can teach your dogs to do that. It's just I'm choosing to use a bed in this case because Pippin is, because it's a convenient thing for the video, basically, and he gets bed. He has to learn bed as a cue. I tried to make a video of being pushy at the door, but none of the dogs I have in the house at this moment are presenting this behavior. Pippin, however, really wants to chew on my rug, as seen in the clip before. Here I'm using the rug as a distraction or rewarding thing that he wants, and trying to get his attention off of it. So we're talking about self-control. Pippin really wants to eat the rug. There's all these little pieces that are popping up, so he's really, really into it. You can see that he's really engaged in it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop him on the leash. Good! And I'm gonna reward him for looking away from the distraction. It's a lowish level distraction, but it's still distracting. And so is kind of everything over here. So the leash pressure is on. He doesn't get to advance, and if he's gonna rip my rug apart, I'm gonna pull him away kind of a little bit. But if he looks away, good! Then he gets a reward. So it's as easy as that. Put them in a situation. Sorry, I don't mean to say easy. I mean, it's not a complex exercise. It's just you're put in a situation where something is interesting. Yeah, good. And then if they look away, they get a reward away from the distraction. And that's all that there is to this exercise. And you can heighten the distractions here. So I can make it, ooh, look a ball, look a ball. Yeah, I'll get you interested. Good, and this wouldn't work with Buck, but it might work with Jax or Diesel. So a bouncing ball is a little bit more distracting. He really wants the ball, he's very engaged. There's no forward movement, and so he's gonna try some things. Good, he sat, and then he turned and he looked, so he did get a reward there. And as this distraction is something that it's okay for him to have, I can let him go get it. Okay, why you want that ball? Good job, buddy! There are two outcomes to this exercise, but the middle is the same. At its core, this exercise involves getting your dogs to look away or move away from what they want to get a reward. It will benefit them to get the thing that they wanted sometimes, like going outside. This way when they feel a tight leash, or the case of the front door, you moving away from the door, then they won't get frustrated. We want them to be rewarded for ignoring the distraction, but we also don't want them to get frustrated and think every time they move away from something, they don't get what they want. Go to your bed. Good. Sit. Yeah, good job. All right, so I'm working with multiple dogs here. Odin is my black lab, and he's just kind of hanging out here, and I'm gonna be working with Hager. So this is just sort of the same kind of thing that we just did with Pippin as far as looking away from distractions, but just there's a little bit more going on as far as distraction goes. So Hager is really toy motivated. He's not in a super highly aroused, excited mode right now, but usually he gets pretty excited about toys. And so it's toy throw, good, and look away. The closer I am to him, the easier it's gonna be for him to look back at me. So the further I am, it's gonna be harder. We've worked on this for a long time with Hager, so it's a pretty proofed behavior. But I mean, this is something that he would never have been able to do that even 2 months ago. And it's just working a little bit every now and then on this. It's not even dedicated time, it's just keeping him in his place and rewarding him being in one certain place, building the value of the place that he is on. That's all that this is. And there's a little bit of this work, but I never come in here and do this specifically, set aside the time to do this one thing. It's all those little things that I was talking about. It's waiting at the door, it's waiting at your kennel, it's doing down to put your leash on. You know, it's not pushing or crowding me at the door, it's staying in your place and just getting rewarded as you go. So it's not something that this is specifically what I have been working on, it's just that it all carries over into that. And so I'm gonna start trying to test him a little bit more with more things because he really likes toys. So break, so that's too much of a distraction. So that's good to know. So we bring him back, good. And then he can go back in his place here. And I think that kind of hit him in the face, so that was a little unfair, but that one goes away. Good job. And so he gets a reward for ignoring it. And again, ball goes by. Good job. He doesn't pay attention. Ball, another ball. Good. He ignores it, which is great. So we'll do multiples at a time. Because the more that's going on, the more interesting it'll be. Good. Took him longer to look back at me though, so that was a higher level distraction. And then we'll get him out and get him a little excited. Come on, Beanies! So Odin is going to prove to be a distraction as well, especially because Hager really likes Odin. And so again, Odin, go over here. Ball, toys, almost, but no, good. So reward there. And this is a higher level that you're going to be working with initially, but this idea is the same. Wait for them to be interested and then look away. And that's what you want to reward. And if they're not going to look away, hey, you, back off. Let's give him something that's going to be hard to look away from. Down. Good. I'm going to offer him food and then I'm going to drop a whole bunch of it here. Good. So he looked away. That's something hard or harder to look away from. Good. And if he isn't looking away, you can help them. So if he does go for the food, I'm going to cover it. You wouldn't do this with a food aggressive dog, but if any of the dogs are fine with you taking food away from them, then this would be a good exercise to work with, is working away. You can keep it further away so that if they do look at it or try to go for it, you can cover it really quickly because it's important that they don't get the food. And then you can open it up, and if they look away from the food and at you, you can give them some of that food as a reward. So you can use this as their reward anyway. Good job. And if he's not going to look at me, which he's doing a pretty good job at looking at me, what I want to do is I want to make some noises. I want to give him about 10 to 15 seconds because sometimes they're just really fixated and they don't want to look at you, but eventually they will go, what am I supposed to do? And that's when you say, yes, good job. You reward them for looking away from the distraction, looking back up at you. If they're not going to look, you can try making some noises, woo, 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 or you can go, or hey, or something along that line to get their attention, clap, wave something in their face. If it's like if it's a toy like this, at least they're looking away from the bigger distraction. Good. And so he looked at me away from this, which was a distraction in that case, so I rewarded him. But just getting them to fixate off of the thing that they really, really want, because this, in this context, is just food or is just a toy. But later on, when they start to build that threshold, when they start to push that and start to gain more self-control, it is the UPS tires, it is the other kids that are running through the yard, it is all these other things that they are already really distracted by, but it's at a lower level. It's starting to show them the right thing to do here, and then if they can do it here, then they can start to do it further up the line until they're able to do it with bigger distractions. Good job.